Well, it's very difficult to be the last presenter on such a distinguished panel, but there is an advantage. I have the time to reorganize my presentation, so to complement a little bit what has been already said. So let me tweet some ideas because I don't have time in 8 minutes to develop them. First of all, I think that for understanding how the Biden's administration new policy, foreign policy, particularly foreign policy, is going to move, we have to take into account the changes of the international system, and to understand that this is the background of what is going to happen in terms not only of the Trump's policy, but also on the Biden policy. I'm not going through all the changes because this is a long list and there is a lot of debate on that, but within this context of a changing international system, what I would like to emphasize is that maybe, and this is a difference with what Professor Trubovich mentioned, maybe we should change a little bit the order of the priorities of the Biden administration, taking into account what is happening in the US and in the world as such. I think the first priority for Biden is to solve the domestic problems, and the rest, the foreign policy, is subordinated to this. A coherent foreign policy is crucial, mostly to solve the situation of the middle class in the United States, to improve the economy, and of course to confront the impact of the pandemic. So in this regard, I would say that, however, we have to take into account that Biden is prioritizing also its foreign policy, but something that impacts us in Latin America is that there is also an emphasis on democracy and human rights as values that should be restored in the international system. And from this point of view, taking into account these three priorities, the domestic priority, the foreign policy, trying to reestablish the alliances and the links with formal allies to conform a bloc, particularly regarding the relationship with China, and thirdly, the need of building up on this for. Sorry, let me come back to this. To prioritize democracy and human rights as a value. I would say that there are three big challenges for the Biden administration. First of all, America is stuck in its domestic problems, which reduce Biden's ability to maneuver internationally. And this is something that is going to be present all over for the next 4 years during this administration. And I would add to that, maybe there is the possibility of restoring the alliances and rebuilding Western bloc regarding what is happening in the world, but at the same time, restoring the alliances in terms of what is happening now is a very short-term response, because the allies are thinking, well, what's going to happen in 4 years? Is this going to have any continuity? Now, the second challenge, at the same time, America is forced to address the fact that the allies of the US are already started to decoupling their own interests from those of the United States. That was during the Trump administration, but it's still going on. And I just mentioned one example of this. After the Biden's tour to Europe, there was the expectation that Europe is also going to start a sort of dialogue with Russia. And there are serious difficulties to build a consensus in the European Union to go ahead with this dialogue. France and Germany are putting pressure on this, but most of the Baltic and Poland and other Eastern countries are against this. So it's not going to be easy to reestablish the way of working with allies as before the Trump administration. And third, and most important, is as Xi Jinping, China, is convinced that its time has come. Asia Pacific will be the priority and the backbone of U.S. diplomatic efforts, particularly through the free and open Indo-Pacific initiative. And of course, the focus of foreign policy will be on what's going on in Asia Pacific. Now, once I said that, I would add that there is, of course, a big difference between how they are going to address the changes on the international system from the perspective of the new Biden administration or from the perspective of China. Much has been already said about what is going to happen in terms of competition between the two nations. But I would like to add that maybe China has some advantages in terms of promoting some very coherent and consistent initiatives in the field of trade, investment, infrastructure, and of course the Belt and Road Initiative is an example of that. And oppose this initiative with values is going to be very difficult to contribute to build something as a bloc on the side of the Western countries. However, I would add that the Western bloc is already a work in progress, the restoration of the Western bloc. And on the other side, I don't see that China is building a bloc in the same terms as the Western bloc with allies on her side. China is more an individual actor regarding what is going to happen in the international system. And as I think I have still 3 minutes, let me move to how we see all this in Latin America. And of course, the US-China strategic competition is affecting us. We had been neglected in the region for the last 20 years by the United States. Whatever United States was trying to initiate regarding Latin America, it was related to the more hot, I would say, issues like migration. And that means that mostly it was focused on Mexico and Central America. Latin America in general is of systemic irrelevance in the international system. We are very peripheric, and but at the same time, we're becoming of strategic relevance because of the competition between the United States and China. China had made inroads and had a lot of influence and increased its influence during the last 20 years in Latin America, and of course is using the vacuums that the United States left in the region. But it's not only
your time is over. Will you please conclude?
Thank you. Last sentence. It's not only the bipolarity between China and the United States, but it's also the presence of other actors that make us think about a multipolar system. Thank you.